drinking and celebrating and bringing in the new year. But along with that are, crashes, fatalities, everything else. I mean, did you know 41% of car accidents, fatalities occur on New Year's Eve? I'm going to bring on Karen Mertes. She's going to tell her story of being a drunk driving victim herself and the creator of Plaintiff 101. Karen, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Ted. Thank you for having me on your show this evening.
Thank you so much for being so flexible with coming on the show live. I mean, I know you speak everywhere. I gone to the Plaintiff 101 WordPress.com site, and you are all over the place. And it just really moved me when I read your story with, with the various PR firms I work with. And when I heard your story, I wanted you to come on and talk with our listeners, share your story, and then we'll take it from there. I mentioned that it's New Year's Eve in a few hours. We talked about holiday travel last week on our podcast. Combining the extra travel and increase in alcohol consumption, it's a recipe for more car accidents. I'm going to decrease and allow you to increase because I want you to share your story and also tell us about Plaintiff 101.
I'm happy to do that, Ted. Thank you. Well, as you asked, the story is that on February 7th of 2007, that was the day that forever changed my life. I was a lieutenant colonel serving in our United States Air Force, and I was driving the speed limit on the interstate when I was struck at approximately 7:20 p.m. by a drunk driver that was traveling literally over 100 miles per hour. And this was just a random Wednesday in February, and 7:20 p.m. is not late in the evening by any stretch. So it's a warning to us all that they're literally out there really 24/7. And this particular young man had a blood alcohol level of 0.221, which is nearly 3 times the legal limit. And both of our cars were totaled. My axle snapped in half and was pushed into my transmission, causing my brakes and steering to fail. And so my car's undercarriage dragged, creating all these sparks. And I slid a distance of about 3 football field lengths. And then there was the smell of burning rubber. It was absolutely horrifying because I had a full gas tank and I worried that it would catch fire. And I sustained a traumatic brain injury at the scene of the crash because the impact upon my head and brain were multiple G-forces. My brain literally cracked and bled inside my skull. And I made a futile attempt to regain control of my vehicle as my car slid sideways down the interstate with all these other cars in the remaining lanes traveling by me at highway speeds and veering around me to avoid hitting me. And it was during this time, as my life hung in the balance, that I made a bargain and a promise that if I were fortunate enough to survive, I'd spend the rest of my life helping other people. And from that, I started a nonprofit called Fulfill Your Destiny, and I raised money for it in a number of different ways. And you alluded to, a lot of professional speaking, and I've authored a book called Plaintiff 101, the Black Book of Inside Information Your Lawyer Will Want You to Know. And I did that. It's a groundbreaking work because it's written from the combined efforts of an attorney and me as the plaintiff, and it gives much of the information from inside our personal injury lawsuit and from an attorney standpoint, but then from me, who was successful in my litigation. And it provides 50 takeaways and checklists, some of which can be implemented immediately to save everybody time, money, and energy. And it's full of real-world applications, so it's very usable and easy to read. And you never see the information in law school. The attorney I partnered with learned it over a very successful career, having been part of multi-million-dollar settlements and verdicts. And so he imparts that wisdom throughout the book. And so we say it's a must-read for every driver, because on the front end, we educate everybody about insurance and how much to have, what types and why. And it has to do with UIM coverage, uninsured motorist coverage. You know, create a pool of money that's there in case you're injured or you should, you know, injure someone else. And so, because you need, you know, a much larger pool to be available than just the legal state minimums across the country. And so we educate people on that, and then we walk them through from A to Z the entire litigation process. And so it's also very useful for plaintiffs' attorneys because it can save them several hours with each client and using it as a teaching tool for them. And then associates can become, the term is called rainmakers, and using our book, Plaintiff 101, to bring in new clients and cases. And defense attorneys will want to read it too, because if they can use the information in Plaintiff 101 to leading to quicker settlements. And then it's really great to position it with all the referral partners, you know, doctors, chiropractors, massage therapists, acupuncturists, all the different networking groups so many of us are part of. You pre-position the book with anybody that may ever get the question, I've been in an accident, what do I do now? And it's available on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle versions. And like you said, there's a website, and that's plaintiff101.wordpress.com. And it's also available through my website, fulfillyourdestiny.org. There's a author tab, and underneath that, there's 4 books, and Plaintiff 101 is one of those, and then it has an extensive blog there about it.
Karen, I have a couple of questions. I know you might be short for time. I want to be cognizant of it. So do we have about 10 minutes or so? Because I just have some questions in regard to the New Year's Eve experience and being out there as a motorist. Do you have a couple of extra minutes, or are you kind of ahead of the time? Okay.
No, I sure do.
So thank you so much. So first question is, why does New Year's Eve contribute to more careless driving? I mean, we know about the level of alcohol, but give us your perspective on it.
Well, I think that alcohol is part of so many of the celebrations that go on New Year's Eve, as well as other times, you know, throughout the year. But New Year's Eve is definitely one of the big ones. And so I think what leads to drinking and driving is that if people have to have a plan. If they know they're going to drink that evening, they have to have the plan before they go out, whether that be a designated driver or a taxi, staying over at a friend's, or the venue that they're going, or Uber, or, you know, all these various other methods. As long as they have the plan in place prior to drinking, it should work. But I think if people don't have the plan, once they start drinking, the judgment goes out the window, and that's when, you know, it leads to the drinking and driving.
So based on that, and it's so key to have a plan, to have a designated driver lined up. But I got to ask you, is like, will these drinking accidents ever be under control?
I think that would be the only way, if people genuinely had a plan and stuck to the plan, and you know, if plan A doesn't work, plan B, you know, taxi, different, you know, just kind of go down the list. But you know, vehicles are just such dangerous equipment if we don't operate them appropriately, and so that's, you know, why we have to make that conscious decision to just not drink and drive. I'm not saying don't drink; that's a personal decision, and everybody, you know, deserves the right to enjoy their off time the way they would like. And so I just, in my mind, I separate the two activities, drinking or driving. You know what I mean? Like drinking and driving doesn't come together in my mind.
Like, I mean, and I'm not endorsing this, but there are times when I'm in my home and I have a glass of wine with dinner. I mean, I'm not getting out behind the wheel after that. I'm done for the evening.
Right. you know, and there've been studies that say, you know, having a glass of red wine or so, it actually has health benefits and whatnot. So, you know, I agree with you. And so, yeah, I think if we looked at it more as an or scenario rather than, you know, the and, I think, you know, we would all be in a better position.
So I have another question is, so what is the fallout from being a victim of a drunk driving accident? I mean,
Yeah.
the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Well, you know, there are a lot of injuries and or fatalities that occur. You would say I'm a miracle, you know, walking miracle, in that he hit me going at 100 miles per hour and I survived. Now, I did sustain a traumatic brain injury that we talked about, and then I spent 4 years and 2 months in litigation. And I sued the drunk driver, and it was a 21-year-old young man driving his girlfriend's mother's car. So he didn't have insurance, but the insurance is on the vehicle. It took 2 years to reach settlement where they paid full policy on that car. And then it took me another 2 years and 2 months in suit against my own insurance company before everything was completely done. And I had to do it that way because I did file a claim with my own insurance company, but they said, no, you know, if you want to recoup, you know, I filed a claim for my policy. And so they said, no, you know, we have to go to court. Or you basically, you know, you have to sue us. In the end, I was able to reach a successful settlement, but that took that duration. And, but, you know, I'm one of the lucky ones in that I did survive. Now, I did lose my career because of my injuries, and I was active duty military at the time, Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Air Force, and had served for 18 years at the time of the collision. And the traumatic brain injury, I was a chief financial officer of a $169 million operation. And I could no longer perform at that level. And so to hear me speak, I'm blessed to be left with the ability to communicate where you don't detect it. And so my deficits are at a much higher level that you just don't detect on day-to-day, you know, interaction with me. And so I'm very, you know, fortunate because a lot of brain injured people can't communicate the same way that I can. And that's because brain injuries are very unique depending on the lobe or lobes that are impacted, how it's classified as far as length of time that a person's unconscious, their level of overall health and fitness at the time of the injury, their desire to get better. There's so many factors that play into, you know, the ultimate outcome. And so that's a larger reason why I feel the need to educate the public, both on traumatic brain injuries and on the system, you know, with drunk driving and therefore the litigation process, and then explaining, you know, through our book Plaintiff 101, helping really everybody, because sadly there's over 2 million people every year that are injured through motor vehicle collisions. Yeah, 2 million, that's staggering.
That is staggering. I have to ask you, I mean, without a doubt, Plaintiff 101, and I'm not even going to ask, because usually at times I would ask the PR firm that I'm working with, hey, send me the review. This story is so powerful. You have my purchase, because I want to donate something to your organization and also pick up the 101. I got to say, how can you protect yourself from the many pitfalls that plaintiffs face?
Well, you know, we go in depth in Plaintiff 101 and, you know, explain everything in layman's terms and the process and what's going to be asked of us as a plaintiff, you know, depositions and filling out interrogatories and we give a deposition checklist and an interrogatory checklist. And we use my story as the case study throughout. And I'm very open in the book, sharing what I did right and also what I did wrong along the way, and how it almost at times cost me the whole case. And so I share it all in the hopes of educating really the nation and perhaps beyond, but certainly our entire United States, both the public and the attorneys on both sides, because I want to help plaintiffs' attorneys and their clients, and then I want to help the defense side as far as helping both sides communicate better, leading to more productive settlements, and getting everybody, healthy quicker, so to say, and on the road to recovery.
Karen, you have such a powerful story. I want to give you a round of applause. I need you. Oh, you're welcome. The last question is, tell us about, the best way to get in contact with you or your organization, your social media, plus your various websites, because there's going to be people that hear this podcast through our various distributed formats that might have a question or two, and if they need to reach out to you, they should be able to get to you.
Absolutely. Well, it really, fulfillyourdestiny.org is the website, and from there they can click and like the Fulfill Your Destiny Facebook page, and connect with Twitter through that. And there's also a contact page there that will send an email to me. And so, they can certainly Google Karen Mertes, and all this stuff comes up as well. And Plaintiff 101 is on Amazon, and so there's probably ways that way too. I certainly invite follow-on questions, and would be happy to engage with people.
And that is Karen Mertes, plaintiff101.wordpress.com. Fulfill Your Destiny. Karen, thank you so much. Want to ask you one question. Any New Year's resolution, anything that you're looking forward to in 2016?
I would like to take Plaintiff 101 and the education and the story as broad and as far as I possibly can to help as many people in 2016 as possible.
Perfect. It's you know what? God bless you. Thank you.